The medical chamber was silent, filled only with the soft hum of alien machines. White walls curved upward like the inside of a shell, smooth and glowing with faint lines of energy. The air was sterile, almost too clean, and the smell of metal hung heavy in the room. A human soldier lay still on the examination bed, his chest rising and falling with slow, weak breaths. He looked like he had been carried there after battle. His uniform cut away and his body covered with strange alien cloth that sealed wounds with gentle light. Beside the bed, monitors blinked with unknown symbols. The machines were alive in their own way, recording every detail of the man's body, yet none of them truly understood what they were seeing. They had never examined a human before. The door opened with a quiet hiss, and the alien nurse entered. Her tall figure moved with calm grace. Her skin was green and smooth, glowing faintly under the white lights of the chamber. Her ears were sharp and pointed, her eyes a bright shade of gold that seemed to notice every small detail. She wore a white bodysuit that hugged her form, with silver lines that marked her as part of the healer caste. She paused for a moment, standing by the door, simply watching the human. She had read about his kind in thick medical manuals. She had studied diagrams, examined organs on screens, and memorized lists of possible diseases. But this was the first time she had ever seen a human in the flesh. He looked fragile, soft, almost delicate compared to her own people. And yet, there was something strange about the way his body seemed to carry hidden strength. She walked closer, her steps soundless on the polished floor. The human stirred faintly, his eyes still closed, but his breathing grew heavier. She placed a small scanning device in her hand and held it above his chest. A blue light spread across his skin, reading inside his body, showing the rhythm of his heart, the pattern of his muscles, the structure of his bones. The nurse tilted her head as she read the results. His organs were similar to what she had studied, but also not the same. Her lips pressed together as she whispered in her own language. Strange. Very strange. She moved the scanner lower, down his stomach, across his hips. Suddenly the device beeped loudly. Her golden eyes widened. She looked again, as if she had made a mistake. But the machine repeated the same result. An unknown swelling. A structure not listed in her records, something that did not belong. The nurse froze. For a long moment she stared at the scanner, then at the human's body. Her fingers tightened around the device. Her training had prepared her for diseases, infections, broken bones, but not for this. She leaned closer, her face just above the man's still body. The swelling between his legs pulsed faintly with blood, like it was alive in a way her scanners could not explain. She stepped back quickly, her calm breath broken. Her heart beat faster. Could it be a hidden weapon? Could the human be carrying something dangerous inside his body? She raised the scanner again, her hand trembling now. The device showed symbols flashing red. Unknown structure detected. She had never seen that warning before. The nurse whispered again, this time with fear. What are you? The human groaned faintly, his lips parting, his head turning slightly on the pillow. His eyes did not open, but he muttered in a weak voice. Where am I? The sound of his voice made her jump. She had studied recordings of human speech, but hearing it in person was different. It was deep, rough, yet strangely warm. She almost dropped her scanner. The human's hand twitched, as if reaching for something. She moved closer, against her better judgment. Her green hand rested on his arm, trying to steady him, but she felt the heat of his skin, warmer than her own. The nurse had touched countless patients in her life, but never had a touch sent such a strange current through her. She tried to calm herself. She was a healer. She was trained for this, and yet her thoughts raced. Should she report this at once? Should she call her commander and say that the human carried something unknown between his legs? Or should she continue her study quietly before anyone else discovered it? Her golden eyes lingered on the swelling. Her mind whispered to her, "This cannot be real. This must be a mistake." She tried once more. The scanner beeped. The same red warning appeared. No mistake, no error. This was something real, something hidden. The nurse stepped back again, breathing faster now. The human was still too weak to move, but he slowly opened his eyes. Blue eyes, clear and sharp, met hers for the first time. For a second, neither spoke. The room was silent except for the hum of the machines and the beating of two hearts. One human, one alien. His voice came again, quiet but firm. "You are not human." Her lips parted, but no words came out. She had thought she was the one examining him, but his gaze made her feel exposed, like he was reading her instead. The nurse pulled her hand back slowly, her mind spinning. She had discovered something she could not explain, something her science had no answer for. And now the human was awake, watching her with eyes full of hidden strength. For the first time in her career, she felt afraid. The lights in the chamber flickered once, then steadied again. The machines hummed louder, as if they too sensed the tension. The nurse's golden eyes never left the human's face. Her whisper was almost too soft to hear, but it carried all the fear and wonder in her heart. "Perhaps you are more dangerous than we believed." The screen fades here, leaving the audience wondering what will happen next. The human's eyes remained fixed on her, unblinking, sharp, and full of strange life. The nurse forced herself to breathe calmly, but inside her, thoughts collided like storms. She had discovered something that her people's science could not explain, and now the very subject of her fear was awake, staring at her with that unsettling human gaze. She stepped back slightly, trying to recover her control. Her hands, still holding the scanner, trembled as if the device weighed more than iron. She glanced at the screen again. The same warning blinked in red letters. "Unknown structure detected. Classification not found." Never before had her instruments failed her. The human groaned faintly, trying to shift his body. The white healing cloth over his chest pulsed with dim light, mending wounds. He tried to sit up, but his strength had not yet returned. The nurse raised her hand in caution. "Do not move," she said firmly in her alien tongue, though she knew he would not understand. To her surprise, his eyes narrowed slightly, as if he did understand something, not the words, but the tone. He relaxed back onto the bed, but his gaze never left her. The nurse's golden eyes flicked back to the swelling between his legs. Her pulse raced faster. Her culture valued logic and science above all things, and yet at this moment, she felt both embarrassment and confusion, emotions she was trained to bury deep. She bent closer, holding the scanner steady above him. "Analyze again," she whispered to the machine, though she knew it had no ears. The blue light spread across his skin once more, humming softly. The result appeared almost instantly, the same warning, the same mystery, her lips pressed tight. This was no error. Whatever it was part of him. The human blinked slowly, his mouth moving again. His voice was weak but clearer this time. "You look afraid." The words startled her. They were simple, broken, but they carried weight. No patient had ever spoken to her like that, not with such sharp observation. How could he see her fear so clearly? Her people were trained to hide such feelings, but to him, she must have been an open book. She shook her head and whispered in her own language, not fear, confusion. But she was lying to herself. It was both. The nurse lowered the scanner and reached for another tool, a thin silver rod with glowing ends. It was designed to send harmless waves through tissue, mapping shapes more deeply than the surface scan. She hesitated before using it, her green fingers hovering above his skin. Then she pressed it gently against his hip. The device glowed, sending lines of light that wrapped around his body. The shapes appeared in the air above him, forming a floating image of his inner structure. The nurse's golden eyes widened again. The swelling was clear, undeniable, and full of flowing blood. It was alive, not diseased, not artificial. Her breath caught. This was not an infection. This was not a weapon. This was part of what made him human. She stepped back, almost stumbling. The projection flickered and dissolved, leaving the air empty once again. Her heart thundered in her chest. The human's lips curved slightly, almost into a smile, though it was faint and tired. "You did not know," he said slowly. The nurse froze. The way he said it was not mocking, not cruel. It was almost gentle, as if he understood her ignorance. Her throat tightened. She wanted to argue, to tell him that her people had studied thousands of species across the stars, that they knew more about biology than any other race. But here, lying before her, was a living truth that broke her science into pieces. "You are strange," she whispered, though he could not understand her words. The human closed his eyes briefly, his chest rising in a steady breath. "So are you." Her hand clenched tightly around the silver rod. She should report this. She should call her commander immediately. That was protocol. Any unknown biological discovery must be documented, especially when it came from an enemy race. But something inside her held her back. She imagined what her superiors would do if they learned of this. They would not treat him as a patient. They would treat him as an experiment, as a specimen to cut open and study. Her golden eyes softened as she looked at him again. He was fragile, yes, but there was also strength in the way he looked at her. Strength, and something else she could not name. For the first time, she wondered, perhaps the humans were more than enemies. Perhaps they were something entirely different, something far more complex than her people believed. She sat down slowly on a stool near the bed. The human's eyes followed her movement, never leaving her. She placed her tools aside, her voice quiet. "You are alive. You are strong. And you are unknown." Her words were whispers to herself, but they carried a weight she could not deny. The chamber lights dimmed slightly, signaling the passing of time. Outside the walls, the starship moved silently through the endless void of space. Inside, the alien nurse and the human soldier faced each other, two beings from different worlds, bound together by confusion, fear, and something dangerously close to fascination. The nurse leaned forward slightly, her green hand resting carefully on the edge of the bed. She no longer held the scanner. She no longer trusted it. She trusted only what her eyes saw and what her heart felt in this moment. The human opened his mouth again, his voice weak but clear. "You want to know?" Her golden eyes flickered. Yes, she wanted to know. She wanted to understand. She wanted to uncover every hidden truth inside this human body. But more than that, she wanted to understand him, his strength, his mystery, and why her own heart trembled whenever his eyes met hers. The nurse said nothing. She only sat in silence, her thoughts heavy, her fear shifting slowly into curiosity. The machines hummed around them, but neither noticed. The chamber had become smaller, quieter, as if it was only the two of them left in the universe, and in that silence, both alien and human knew this was only the beginning. The chamber felt heavier now, as though the air itself carried the weight of secrets. The nurse sat still on her stool, her golden eyes fixed on the human. His breathing had grown stronger, his chest rising and falling with more life than before. His body was healing, the alien cloth pulsing softly across his wounds. Yet it was not his recovery that unsettled her. It was his gaze, steady and unbroken, piercing into her like a blade. She had examined countless patients, yet none had ever looked at her this way. Her people treated healers with respect, often with fear, never with such direct and questioning eyes. The human's gaze was bold, almost defiant, even in his weakness. The nurse forced her voice steady. "You must rest." The words left her lips in her own tongue, soft yet commanding. The human tilted his head slightly as if trying to understand. He did not know her words, but he knew her meaning. His eyes softened for a moment, then narrowed again. His lips curved into the faintest smile. "You are..." Afraid still. Her chest tightened. Again he had seen through her. She wanted to deny it, to stand proud as a member of the healer caste, untouched by fear. But the truth clung to her heart like a shadow. Yes, she was afraid. Not of death, not of war, but of what she did not understand. The swelling she had discovered haunted her thoughts. It was more than a medical puzzle. It was proof that her people's knowledge was incomplete. If one secret could hide inside a single human body, how many more might exist? She rose from her stool, pacing slowly around the bed. Her footsteps were soundless on the polished floor. The human's eyes followed her every move. She felt trapped by his gaze, as though the patient was studying the nurse instead of the other way around. She paused by the wall, staring at the glowing symbols on a monitor. Protocol whispered in her mind, "Report the anomaly. Contact your commander. Obey the order of science." But her heart spoke another voice, softer yet stronger. "If you tell them, he will not live. He will become nothing but a specimen." Her hand hovered above the wall panel, ready to call in a superior. But she froze. Her golden eyes drifted back to the human. He was watching her, silent but knowing. His lips moved again, weak but clear. "Choice," he said. The single word shook her. Did he understand? Could he somehow sense her conflict? She stepped back from the wall. Her hand dropped slowly to her side. She returned to the bed, standing close enough to see the faint sweat on his skin, the slow rise and fall of his chest. She spoke softly, though she knew he would not understand. "If I tell them, they will take you. If I do not, I betray my oath." Her oath as a healer was to reveal all truths, to share knowledge for the good of her people. Yet now, facing this human, she found herself unwilling to obey. The human shifted slightly, wincing at the pain in his body. "You protect?" he asked in broken words. The nurse's breath caught. Protect? Was that what she was doing? The thought unsettled her even more. She was not supposed to feel such things. She was not supposed to choose between duty and compassion. Yet here she stood, torn apart by both. Her golden eyes softened as she leaned closer. "Perhaps," she whispered, the word heavy with conflict. For a long moment neither spoke. The machines hummed, the lights glowed, but the room felt wrapped in silence. Then slowly the human raised his hand. It trembled with weakness, but it moved toward her, reaching. The nurse froze. Every instinct told her to step back, to keep distance, to maintain control. But her heart betrayed her. She extended her green hand, meeting his halfway. His skin was warm, burning almost compared to hers. Their fingers touched, her chest tightened. A rush of strange sensation filled her, as if his warmth carried more than heat, as if it carried strength itself. She pulled back quickly, her hand shaking, her face betraying emotion she was not meant to show. The human gave the faintest of smiles again. "Not enemy," he whispered. The words struck her harder than any weapon. Not enemy. How could he say that? Their people were at war, their fleets burning each other in the void of space. She had treated victims of his kind's violence, seen blood spilled by human weapons. And yet here he was, calling her not enemy. Her throat felt tight. She wanted to correct him, to remind him of the truth. But she found no strength to speak those words. Instead, she whispered to herself, "Perhaps." The tension in the chamber grew heavier, a rope pulled between them, neither willing to let go. She could feel the edge of danger in every moment, the risk of betrayal, the risk of discovery. If anyone walked in now, she would be condemned for withholding knowledge. He would be taken away, dissected. The thought burned in her chest. The human's eyes fluttered closed for a moment, his strength fading. The nurse reached instinctively to steady him, her hand pressing gently against his shoulder. "Rest," she said softly. This time he seemed to understand. His breathing slowed, his body easing into the bed. Yet even as his eyes closed, his lips moved one last time. Trust. The nurse stood frozen. That single word echoed in her mind, like a command. Trust. How could she trust a human, an enemy, a being her people did not fully understand? And yet, when she looked at him lying there, she felt something unfamiliar blooming inside her. It was not only curiosity, it was not only fear. It was the beginning of something dangerous, something her people would call betrayal. She sat back down on her stool, her golden eyes never leaving the human. The silence stretched, but her thoughts screamed louder than ever. For the first time, the nurse realized the war outside mattered less than the war inside her own heart. The chamber was dim now. The ceiling light softened to a pale glow as the ship drifted through the endless dark. The nurse had not called her commander. Hours had passed, yet she remained seated by the human's bed, her golden eyes locked on his resting form. He slept fitfully, his breaths uneven, his face tightening at times as if caught in distant dreams. She should have used the time to write her medical report, to send the required details to the higher officers, but her hands refused to move toward the panel. Something inside her whispered, "Not yet." The silence pressed on her ears. She reached once more for her instruments. Her fingers hovered above the scanner, but this time she did not feel fear. Instead, she felt something sharper, determination. She had to know. She had to break through the wall of confusion that had trapped her since the moment she scanned him. With a steady breath, she activated the silver rod once more. Thin streams of light spilled out, wrapping around his body. The projection bloomed above him, a glowing outline of his form. She guided the scan lower, watching the internal shapes appear in the air. Her chest tightened. There it was again, the swelling. Clear, defined, undeniable. It pulsed with life, blood moving in rhythmic surges. She magnified the image, the floating display widening until every vein and tissue stood visible. Her golden eyes widened. This was no sickness. No growth, no weapon. This was natural, perfectly formed. Essential to his biology. Her breath left her lips in a shaky whisper. "It is part of you." The truth crashed into her mind like a storm. Her manuals had never spoken of this. The charts in her education centers had shown simplified diagrams of human anatomy, stripped of details, reshaped to fit alien understanding. Now, standing before the real thing, she realized how much had been hidden or ignored. Her people thought humans were simple, weak, ordinary. But this was proof that their knowledge was flawed. The human stirred. His blue eyes opening slowly, heavy with exhaustion, yet sharp as ever. He glanced at the projection above him, then at her. His lips parted with a tired smile. "You see, now." The nurse froze. Did he understand what she had found? Did he know she was uncovering the truth of his body? She wanted to ask, but words tangled in her throat. She managed only a whisper. "Why did no one tell us?" The human coughed softly, his voice rough. "Because you never asked." Her hands shook. She deactivated the projection, the image vanishing like smoke. The chamber felt colder without it. She looked down at him, her voice trembling. "You are not as we believed. You are not weak." His eyes glimmered faintly in the dim light. "We never were." Those words echoed in her mind, burning away years of teaching. If humans carried such hidden truths within their very bodies, what else were they hiding? What other secrets slept beneath their skin, waiting to awaken? The nurse stepped back, her pulse racing. Her people's pride in their science, their belief in superiority. All of it felt fragile now, like glass about to shatter. She whispered again, almost to herself. "We thought we knew you." "We knew nothing." The human's breathing steadied, but his gaze never left her. "Now, you know fear." Her heart jolted. He was right. This was not just discovery. It was warning. Humans were not only different, they were unpredictable. And unpredictability was dangerous. Her mind battled itself. Should she still protect him? Should she still keep his secret? If her commanders knew, they would see this as proof of threat. Proof that humans were not to be trusted. Perhaps they were right. Perhaps he was dangerous. Yet, even as fear spread through her, she felt another emotion rise to meet it. Respect. She sat slowly, her eyes never leaving his. "You are a puzzle I cannot solve," she admitted. His lips curved faintly again. "That is, humanity." The silence stretched between them heavy and alive. She felt her oath pulling her in one direction, her heart pulling in another. She could expose him and live as a loyal healer, or she could hide the truth and carry this burden alone. Either path meant risk. The human closed his eyes again, drifting back toward sleep. But just before darkness took him, he whispered a final word, so soft she almost missed it. "Survive." Her golden eyes lingered on his face, her mind twisting with the meaning. Survive. Was it a command? A plea or a promise? The nurse stood, pacing the room again, her thoughts too heavy to contain. Her people believed they understood all species in the galaxy, believed their science flawless. Yet here was a single human, lying weak and broken, who had undone her certainty in mere hours. She pressed her hand against the smooth wall of the chamber, her reflection staring back at her in the faint glow. Her face looked different somehow, less sure, less calm. She whispered to her reflection, "If this is only one secret, how many more do you carry?" Her chest ached with the truth she could no longer ignore. Humans were not just another species. They were something more, something dangerous, something untamed, something even her science could not cage. The ship's engines thrummed in the distance, a reminder that war still raged outside these walls. Her people would not stop until humanity was broken, studied, and controlled. Yet now she wondered if such a task was even possible. She turned back to the bed. The human slept soundly, his face calm, his body strong despite the wounds. He looked fragile and powerful at the same time, a contradiction that unsettled her more than anything else. The nurse's hand curled into a fist. She knew the truth now, and it was a truth that could change everything. But for now, she would keep it locked in her heart. She sat again, whispering into the silence, her voice shaking but firm. "Perhaps you are more dangerous than even you know." The machines hummed on, the lights glowed faintly, and the chamber settled into silence once more. Yet beneath that silence lay a storm, a truth that could no longer be buried. The chamber was quiet again. The human slept deeply now, his chest rising with slow, steady breaths. The nurse sat nearby, her golden eyes never leaving him. She should have felt calm, yet her heart carried a weight heavier than before. The discovery she had made, the truth hidden in his body, was something she could not forget. Her people believed they understood the universe. They believed every creature could be studied, catalogued, explained. But here was one human who had shaken that belief with only his existence. She leaned forward on her stool, her voice a whisper meant only for herself. "You are not weak. You are not ordinary. You are unknown." The human stirred slightly, though he did not wake. The word he had spoken before still echoed in her mind. Survive. Why had he said that? Was it advice? A warning? Or was it simply the truth of his species, a truth her people had never understood? The nurse rose and walked across the chamber, her green hand brushing against the cold wall. She thought of her commander, of the council of scientists who demanded reports, who demanded obedience. If she told them what she had seen, they would take the human away. He would not live another day. He would be placed in glass rooms, cut apart, studied until nothing remained of the life in him. Her oath as a healer told her to reveal knowledge. Her heart told her to protect it. She stood between two paths, both dangerous. She returned to the bed. The human's face looked calm now, almost peaceful. His blue eyes were closed, but she remembered the way they had pierced her before, sharp as blades, yet carrying something more. Not hatred, not cruelty. Something else? Respect, perhaps. Her people never respected humans. They called them fragile, reckless, violent. But now she wondered if they had been wrong all along. The swelling she had found was not just a part of his body, it was a symbol of something greater. It was proof that humans carried strength where none expected it. Hidden strength, dangerous strength, she whispered again, her voice low. "Perhaps you are more dangerous than even you know." The words filled the chamber like a secret vow. The human's breathing changed, a soft sigh escaping his lips. His hand twitched on the bed, reaching slightly as if seeking something. Without thinking, the nurse reached forward and placed her green hand gently on his. His skin was warm, far warmer than her own. She expected fear to rise again, but instead she felt calm. The connection was simple, yet powerful. Two enemies touching not in violence, but in silence. Her golden eyes softened. She thought of the war raging beyond the ship's walls. Fleets clashing, soldiers dying, entire worlds caught in fire. And here, inside this small chamber, there was only one human, fragile yet strong, unknown yet real. She realized something then. The war was not only about territory or power, it was about fear. Her people feared what they did not understand. And humans were the greatest mystery of all. The nurse drew her hand back slowly, careful not to wake him. She sat again, her thoughts restless. She imagined what might happen if others learned the truth. If one human's body could hold secrets that shook her science, what would happen when her people faced humanity as a whole? Perhaps the war would end not in victory, but in revelation. Perhaps the true danger was not human weapons, but human nature itself. She lowered her gaze, speaking softly, as if confessing to the silence. I cannot give you to them. Not yet. Her decision was dangerous. If her commanders learned she had hidden knowledge, she would be punished. She might even be cast out. But she felt no regret. Protecting the human was no longer a choice. It was a path she could not turn away from. The lights in the chamber flickered once, a sign of the ship's engines adjusting course. The nurse glanced upward, her heart steady now. She knew the war would continue. She knew her people would demand victory. But in this chamber, something else had begun. Respect. The human shifted again, his eyes opening for a brief moment. Blue met gold. His lips curved into a faint, tired smile. Still here, he whispered. The nurse nodded once, her voice quiet but firm. Yes, still here. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. No weapons, no anger, only the fragile thread of trust that had formed between them. It was thin, but it was enough. The nurse stood tall, her shoulders squared. She would keep his secret. She would guard it as long as she could. Not for her people, not for science, but for him, for the mystery he carried, for the respect he had earned. She whispered one last thought before the chamber returned to silence. If one human can change everything, what will happen when the rest of your kind arrive? The machines hummed, the lights steadied, and the human closed his eyes again, drifting back into sleep. The nurse sat by his side, her mind alive with questions, her heart alive with fear and respect. She did not know the answers yet. But she knew this: the universe would never look at humanity the same way again. And deep inside, she feared the day her people learned what she now knew, that humans were not fragile. They were dangerous, unpredictable, and perhaps unstoppable. The chamber grew silent once more, but the silence was not empty. It was heavy with foreshadowing, with the weight of secrets that would not stay hidden forever.